Welcome to Thinner Peace and Menopause and Beyond. This is Dr. Deb Butler, Master Life and Weight Coach, and as always, your coach. Today is episode number 162. I want to talk to you about being kind. I don't know how many times we want to talk about this, but I find we can never talk about it enough. Stay tuned. Hi, everybody. How are you today? I'm getting ready to go see my best friend in Florida. And so I have a special podcast for you that I did a while ago, but I want to play it again because after doing my last interview with Sabra, and we talked so much about self-kindness, I wanted to do one of my podcasts that I did when I was in Belize. Do you remember when I was living in Belize? I was living in Belize for 15 months. And when I was listening to that recording, I was talking about the Caribbean Sea that I was looking out at because that's what I looked out at every single day for 15 months. Such a beautiful experience. And seriously, the way I felt then about the Caribbean Sea is exactly the way I feel about my beautiful woods in my backyard that I'm looking at now. But what I really want for you guys is I want you to understand, number one, that when I do interviews with my clients or when I coach other people on these podcasts, I don't do it for you to feel worse about yourself. For my clients who are listening to this and they hear other clients talking about how well they're doing, what I want for you guys, for every single person who's listening to these podcasts and these interviews to think, I want you to think that if she can do it, I can do it too. Because that's the only reason I put them on, is because they were where you are. Now, maybe they weren't there as long as you. Maybe they were there longer than you are. The only thing that matters is that the tools that I teach and the programs that I teach work. And that I put people on here to tell you about their experience so that you realize that you can do this too. And that I talk to so many of you that talk about how this resonates with you. That's how you know, because you can feel it in your bones that this stuff is cool and that it works. Nobody said it's easy. Probably everybody that I interview talk about the hard work that they had to do, but they did it. And there's not one person that hasn't said that it was more than worth it. 200%, 300%, always a lot more than 100%. And that every penny they spent, it was worth it. And that I want you to know for yourself, regardless if you work with me or not, the things and the tools that I teach on this podcast work. And that all you have to do is go all in on yourself and commit to yourself and never give up on yourself. That's why I do these interviews. That's what I want you to take away with you. So as I segue over into my podcast that I did when I was living in Belize, I really want you to think about my message again, because the only way that you can learn the work that I'm teaching is not by being hard on yourself, but it's only by being kind to yourself and becoming very, very curious about what you see. And that, my darling, is where you will learn the most. So enjoy the podcast, and I'll talk to you next week. How are all you, my dear friends, today? It's a rainy day here in Belize. I don't know, you might be able to even hear the thunder. It's pretty loud here. But I'm still looking out at the Caribbean, and the clouds are almost touching the horizon of the ocean. And everything looks like it's one color right now. And the palm trees are green and blowing. And, wow, it's really quite beautiful, lightning. Anyway, I hope you don't hear thunder. But if you do, know that I am safe and everything is good. Today, I want to talk to you about my class that I've been doing. I think a lot of you might have heard me talk about offering a class on the art of self-compassion. Losing weight by being your own best friend really is what it's all about. Like being nicer to yourself instead of meaner to yourself to get what you really, really want. And since most of the people that I work with think what they really, really want is to lose weight, and most of the people that I work with have been working on this for 20, 30, 40 years, and still have not gotten the result that they're looking for, I'm offering a different way of being able to do this. And that is, instead of being harder and meaner on yourself, which most of you who are in this category of losing and gaining weight for many, many years, then I want to offer you a totally different way of approaching it. And I know you've heard about it a lot because I do talk about it in my podcast, but I can't talk about it too much. And since I'm having a whole class on just how to be nice to yourself, like lessons on how to be nice to yourself, I'm not going to leave you out of it just because you didn't join the class or didn't know about it. I still want to give you some really important tidbits that a lot of my students are starting to learn. And one of the students that I want to talk to you about today, she's from Australia. I have people in this class that are from around the world. And this is like so unbelievable and such a gift to me and to her that we could connect because of the internet. So for her to get into this class and be able to be on the phone when I give the class, she has to wake up at 4:00 in the morning. And she is. It's remarkable in that this is what she wants for herself, that she's willing to get up this early to be able to be a part of the class. And, it's like, how hard do you want to work to get something that you really, really want? No doubt for me, she really wants this. And one of the things that I notice about her, because we've been corresponding a lot through email about questions, and she's been on, we have our own private Facebook page for our community of students who are in this class. And I would say, and I would bet you that most of the students that are in this class would agree with me that this woman by far is the kindest and most compassionate woman I have ever met in a really long time. And I did get to do a mini session with her on the phone, so I did talk to her. But it's really through her writing that I see how kind she is and how she speaks to me and how she speaks to other classmates. It's with the kindest respect and gentleness. And, I know you all know what that feels like when you get a letter from somebody who just uses that type of terminology when she's talking and you just get the feeling about her. But here's the most interesting thing about her is that as compassionate as she is with other people and as kind and respectful as she is with people who are writing on Facebook about their problems and about their suffering and how she responds and even the way she talks to me. I mean, it's like I just want to hug her through the phone. But as she's writing more and more to me, guess what one of her biggest problems is for herself? You guessed it. She cannot do this compassionate thing that she does with everybody. She does not know the first step on how to use it on herself. Uh-oh. I don't know if you just heard that thunder, but we just had thunder. Anyway, if I could teach her, just like if I could teach you, to use that type of kindness that you already have for other people, she really does for other people. But when she starts talking about herself, everything changes. I can feel everything change in the way she speaks about herself. It is in a very derogatory way. The kindness goes away. The compassion goes away. And it's like she does not know the first step on how to handle herself with love. She wants to be mean to herself, to stop herself from eating, to see when she's fogging. She just wants to get meaner on herself and wants herself to get with the program. What is wrong with you? Almost that kind of talking. It hasn't worked for her. She's like you. She's been working on this for 20, 30 years. But here's the thing that I want to offer you that I want to offer her is, number one, she definitely knows how to use compassion. I think you do too. I mean, for sure, because the way that she uses it and the way that she speaks is so beautiful. I should even read you a letter. I might even read you a letter from her sometime because I know that you would know what I was talking about if you could hear her speaking. And yet when she starts to speak about herself, all of that goes away. So what I'm asking her to do is to pretend that when she's looking at herself and she's struggling, like for instance, at night, she struggles with fog eating. She struggles with joy eating, joy fog eating. She struggles because she wants to be eating when she's feeling negative emotion. She's now aware of that, but she still doesn't know how to stop it. And instead of being kind to herself because of the struggle, like, sweetheart, I know how hard this is for you. Like, that's what she would say if it were somebody else, for sure. She would just say, she would use the kindest of words. She uses words that I've never even heard of that are so beautiful when she's speaking kindly to somebody else. But if she could use that on herself, it would make her actually start to feel better immediately, because she's already feeling bad and suffering about what she's seeing about herself, because it's not what she wants. But this is the thing. When we see ourselves doing something and it's not what we want to be doing, by being kind to ourselves, because we're not doing it to be mean to ourselves. When we're eating, when we're not hungry, we're not really doing it intentionally to figure out how we could be meaner to ourselves. We're doing it because we think we're trying to protect and keep ourselves safe. And if we could say that to ourselves in the kindest of ways, I know, sweetheart, you're trying to help yourself. I know that. And I know you've been doing it for a long time, and I know how hard it is to stop. That changes your hormones in your body. And that's what I want to read to you today about self-compassion. So many of you know that in my class, on my podcast, one of the authors that I like very much is Kristin Neff, and she wrote a book on self-compassion. And I use a lot of her information when I'm speaking to you, when I'm teaching you, because I think she has a wonderful way of being able to explain why it's so important and why you've never learned it. And one of the things that she has in her chapter about being kind to herself is that one of the things that happens when we turn our own kindness on ourselves is we produce a hormone called oxytocin. And I know you guys might be aware of this, especially in pregnant women and women who are breastfeeding. This is the hormone that is produced. And the reason, and the more that it's produced, the more connection the mother feels with the baby. And this is just a natural thing that happens in the body. And it just makes a woman feel even more love. So here's the thing. If oxytocin creates this feeling of love and attachment, when you use this feeling on yourself, when you turn kindness onto yourself, you produce the hormone oxytocin in yourself. Do you love that? And when you can produce that hormone in your body, let me tell you what it does, because I want to read it to you specifically right from Kristin Neff's book, because I couldn't say it better than her. So this is what she says in her book on oxytocin, and I'm going to read a little bit about that, and I'm going to read a little bit about what happens when you use self-criticism instead of self-compassion on yourself, what that does to you from a physiological point of view. I think this will be very interesting to you and might even help you decide that maybe being nice to yourself might be a good option. So this is what she says about oxytocin. Research has also shown that increased levels of oxytocin strongly increase feelings of trust, calm, safety, generosity, and connectedness, and also facilitate the ability to feel warmth and compassion for ourselves. Oxytocin reduces fear and anxiety and can counteract the increased blood pressure and cortisol associated with stress. Oxytocin is released in a variety of social situations, including when a mother breastfeeds her child, when parents interact with their young children, or when someone gives or receives a soft, tender caress. Because thoughts and emotions have the same effect on our bodies, whether they're directed to ourselves or to others, this research suggests that self-compassion may be a powerful trigger for the release of oxytocin. Self-criticism appears to have a very different effect on our body. The amygdala, which is the oldest part of the brain is designed to quickly detect threats in our environment. When we experience a threatening situation, the fight or flight response is triggered. The amygdala sends signals that increase blood pressure, adrenaline, and the hormone cortisol, mobilizing the strength and energy needed to confront or avoid a threat. Although the system was designed by evolution to deal with physical attacks, it is activated just as readily by emotional attacks from ourselves or others. Over time, increased cortisol levels lead to depression by depleting various neurotransmitters involved in the ability to experience pleasure. You guys, did you hear that? Do you see that when you can be kinder to yourself and you release this hormone, that you actually get to feel calmer? And most of us are always beating ourselves up and criticizing ourselves, which makes us feel worse and which pushes us, if our brains are already wired to numb emotions with food, it pushes us to do this. And when we do the opposite by caring for ourselves, to realize that this is hard, it's hard to change. It is hard to change in the beginning. It's hard to rewire our brain to want to not eat when we're under stress. But this is possible. And the only way, one of the only ways that it's possible is, number one, to be able to see yourself clearly and calmly and with love. And when you can change those emotions by feeling a negative emotion, realizing the thought that you're thinking, thoughts and emotions create the same physiological reaction in your body, just like as if you were breastfeeding a child. Just by thinking something, you can create this positive oxytocin hormone. Now, let me ask you a question. What would you rather feel, stressed and depressed or calm and peaceful? Okay, hopefully your answer is calm and peaceful. And guess what? It's right at your fingertips. It's right in your brain, ready to be released by noticing your own suffering and embracing it instead of criticizing it. For my client and student who's in my class in Australia, this is what we're working on. And this is what I want to offer you, even though you're not in my class. I want to give you the option to work on being your own best friend by learning how to turn the compassion that you use for others to turn it on yourself on purpose and to hold you in your own arms as if you actually really loved yourself. That's what I want to offer you this week, is the ability for you to produce the hormone oxytocin on purpose so that you can feel calm and peaceful and to be able to see yourself more clearly and to be able to help yourself in any situation. I know a lot of times we're talking about eating, but if we're eating because we don't want to feel an emotion, then the answer still is you either need to feel it or change the thought. And either one of those things make eating not something that you want to do as much, right? You become more mindful of what's going on in your mind and you become less reactive to what's going on in your mind. And then numbing and eating and fogging becomes a possibility, but not something that you have to do. And guess what? That becomes the beginning of rewiring your brain and having this clean mind-body connection. So I invite you to do that this week. Be your own best friend. I know you know how to be a best friend to other people. Be your own. Be the best friend, the best friend you could ever be to you. And notice that when you see your own suffering and you start to criticize yourself, you hold yourself and say, sweetheart, it's okay. It's okay. I love you. I'm telling you, I want you to try it. I'm always talking about it. But, the more research that I read on this, especially from Kristen Neff, I realize that this is an answer to overeating. It really is. It's an answer to everything in your life, but because I'm talking about using food for other reasons than fuel, this is an answer, and that is why I created a class, and that's why I'm sharing this with you today. So be your own best friend for this week. Notice it When you see yourself doing something, notice it if you can just hold yourself in your own arms and be kind to yourself. And while I'm talking about being kind to yourself, if you've been listening to this podcast for a long time, and I know a lot of you have, I want to ask you this. If you really love this podcast, would you please do me an honor and a favor, kind of being kind to me and being kind to this podcast, to go to iTunes and give an honest review. You go to drdebbutler.com/iTunes and you can do a review. And if you need more technical help than that, I can always tell you how to do it, but I bet you can figure it out. So, 2 things. 1, go to iTunes, drdebbutler.com/iTunes. Please give me an honest rating. And if you haven't subscribed to this podcast, please subscribe. This helps other people find what you have found here. It helps other people do the same. So I would appreciate that. And the second thing that I would like you to do, as always, is not only be your own best friend, but be very, very kind to yourself. And I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
If you're ready to take your eating issues to another higher, more improved level, well, it's time to talk to my wife, Dr. Deborah. She's helped hundreds and thousands of people. Just visit drdebbutler.com/work with me. You'll get a free consultation with Dr. Deb and find out if coaching and talking to my wife is a solution to your struggles.